Texas Tech football is set to begin spring practice in just under 3 weeks, but Red Raider Nation is going to have to wait and see five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson. In today's video, we'll discuss the news of a knee procedure that Micah Hudson just recently underwent and look at the 2024 wide receiver group for the Red Raiders headed into a pivotal season for Texas Tech. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long and you want more videos here of Texas Tech football on the channel, just simply like the video. It goes a long way in terms of telling us, hey, you like this content? Well, good. We'll make more of it here for you on the channel. So join one of the largest groups of Texas Tech fans, not only on YouTube, but on the internet as a whole right here in the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, let's get into this news of five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson officially being ruled out for spring practice. This was first reported by David Collier of Red Raider Nation over at KMAC, the ABC affiliate in Lubbock. A source confirmed to them that five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson will not play this spring for the Red Raiders. Hudson apparently recently underwent a procedure to repair a knee injury he sustained back in high school at Lake Belton. Now, why did this come up? It's kind of funny. It's because Micah Hudson was at the men's basketball game on Tuesday night where the Red Raiders lost to the Longhorns 81-69. But there was a video posted on social media where you could see Micah Hudson signing someone's arm, and then you see his left leg, and it is in a brace. Got a lot of people talking. So it's one of those deals where it sounds like it's more of a, hey, we're going to get this out of the way early, just make sure everything's good, and he should be ready for fall camp. And that's what Collier and Red Raider Nation went on to report. They said that Hudson is expected to return to workouts this summer and be ready well in advance of the season opener against Abilene Christian on August 31st at the newly renovated Jones AT&T Stadium, with all that work being done. Now, obviously, let's get to my take on this. It's not ideal, but it's something you'd rather see get done now than potentially linger in and have the possibility of him missing any fall camp. Now, as we know with knee procedures and really just any injury where you go under the knife, hey, there's some risk there, right? So maybe he's a week or two behind, but the timetable in terms of him actually being ready is really good for Texas Tech in the sense of he'll have time to rehab, re-ramp up, and be a full go when fall camp does inevitably start for the Red Raiders in late July, early August. Now, I'll also down below in the description and in the comments have the link if you want to read more about what David Collier and Red Raider Nation reported over there on their site. So want a little bit more detail on it, be sure to go check out their link down below. And if you want more detail about Texas Tech football all year long, well, it's really easy. Do these three things. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. We've got creative content coming out what feels like every day here. It's not a one-man show, but close to it in that regard. So if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech football and everything that the fans are talking about and the latest breaking news, rumors, and everything in between, we've got you covered right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right. At the bottom of your screen, you're going to see some returnees and some also newcomers for Texas Tech football when it comes to the wide receiver position right now. And there's quite a bit of new faces. And if we're being honest, I think that's a good thing. If you've watched Texas Tech football over the past 2 years, the wide receiver position has been one of frustration in a lot of ways in terms of consistent separation, running certain routes, injuries, whatever it may be. But you bring back some guys that I'm actually kind of excited about, mainly Coy Aiken, Dre McCray, and Jordan Brown. Those three guys, you've seen what they can do. Are they stars? No, but they're really, really solid wide receivers, and Dre McCray brings a different element in the special teams game, as we've seen multiple times last year in his first year out in the 806. Now, there are some young guys that are probably going to get a little bit of run, and that's going to be TJ West, DJ Crest, and then you've got Kelby Volson as well there. So those are three young guys that I'm interested to watch. But a lot of this comes down to the three newcomers at the wide receiver position, whether that's obviously five-star wide receiver Micah Hudson, who we just previously stated should be ready to go for fall camp after his knee procedure, but two guys transferring in from, well, one former Power 5 conference and another one in the SEC. The one that I'm most excited about is Josh Kelly from Washington State. He was one of the best wide receivers in the Pac-12 last year, being Cam Ward, who is now the quarterback down at Miami's number one target. Almost had 1,000 yards. He is an absolute stud. Now, another guy that I think is going to be an interesting guy in terms of the dynamics that he presents to this Texas Tech offense is Caleb Payday Douglas. And if you watch this show at all, you know every time I have to say Caleb, I have to say Payday after it because that nickname is absolutely A1. Anyway, Caleb Douglas was a starting wide receiver for Florida last year. Then he got hurt. Didn't have a ton of production during his time, but to say that he was a starter on Florida who goes into this year probably with a top 20 talented roster in college football doesn't mean they're a top 20 team, but they had a top 20 roster and arguably the most difficult schedule in 2024. But Caleb Douglas, Payday Douglas, I might add, is a guy that I'm interested in from a deep ball threat. He is a big, lengthy wide receiver that I think can create mismatches on the outside for Texas Tech. Now, they're not done there, however, Texas Tech is in terms of the playmaker side of it. Yes, I know we're strictly looking at wide receiver, but I'd be remiss not to mention some of the tight ends that they have where I think Texas Tech is actually going to use them quite a bit more now that in theory, the offensive line should be better. Now, the guys that I'm looking at in this are Jalen Conyers, the Arizona State transfer. You got John Carlos Miller III from Elon, a guy that actually led his level of football in yards per catch. Then you've got Jason Llewellyn from Oklahoma, a guy that Texas Tech targeted out of the high school ranks initially. He went to Oklahoma. He's a guy that can kind of do it all, a better blocker than pass catcher at the moment, but could develop. And obviously, we have to talk about Mason Tharp, too, who's back from injury, a 6'9", 265-pound guy that runs a 4.6 in that range. Yeah, that's going to play. I think you're going to see Texas Tech offense elevated this coming up season due to these playmakers, and it starts with a lot of the guys that you're bringing in. Obviously, the star of the show, no pun intended, because he's got 5 stars next to his name, is Micah Hudson. And again, from the David Collier report over there at Red Raider Nation and KMAC, it sounds like he's going to be ready to go in fall for Texas Tech. And let's face it, it would be cool to see him in spring, but you kind of care more about the games in the fall. But Josh Kelly is a guy that I'm watching. I think he is going to be hyper-targeted by Baron Morton. And Baron Morton is going to have a plethora of weapons that bring different skill sets. And I think that that was something that Texas Tech drastically needed on this offense going into this season. Because you look at what they had last year, and it felt like they were really just kind of in a box in the sense of they only had one guy that was a deep threat, and that was Dre McCray. You couldn't do much else with him in the sense that he was the only threat. The defense knew that he was going to be the one to take the top off. Then he had Jerron Bradley, had Miles Price, Xavier White. Xavier White was good, but you look at the whole dynamics of it, and you had kind of the same wide receiver at multiple spots, if that makes sense. Now you have different dynamics in place at the wide receiver position, and some of that is Coy Aiken, who we know but Baron Morton loves to target. They were roommates. He throws to a ton. Dre McCray brings different elements to the game as well. Jordan Brown was a guy, when he was healthy last year, for the limited stretch that he was healthy, was a solid wide receiver for Texas Tech. I'm super high on TJ West, DJ Crest, and Kelby Valson as well, those 3 young guys, but I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs attracted to the 3 new wide receivers that they landed via the high school ranks and the portal in Micah Hudson, Josh Kelly, and Caleb Payday Douglas. But I'd be remiss not to mention, as I did just a little bit ago, the tight ends that they added as well and return in Mason Tharp. There should be a lot more playmakers at these respective positions, and it's something that these groups haven't had in a long time for Texas Tech in the sense of, okay, we know you have Josh Kelly over there, but who on the other side do we have to respect? Oh, we have to respect Micah Hudson now or Coy Aiken? Oh, okay, like you thin out the defense, you thin out the secondary, and that makes life so tremendously easier for a guy like Baron Morton, specifically in the pass game, and it also makes his life easier as well when you got arguably the best running back in the Big 12 back as well in Taj Brooks. But I want to hear from you guys for Texas Tech football this year, and specifically the wide receiver group. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about the Texas Tech wide receiver group in 2024? I'll admit, this was one of the 2 positions I think they had to drastically overhaul, the other being the offensive line. I think they did a phenomenal job, but I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the pinned comment below. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about this Texas Tech wide receiver group in 2024? All right, let's wrap it up there. Again, big news out of this one. Micah Hudson out for spring practice. Doesn't sound like it's going to be something that lingers on to the season, which is good for Texas Tech. But this wide receiver group is much improved. And you know what's also much improved? Well, everybody watching this as a fan because they know more about what's going on in Texas Tech football. So if you want to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube, do these 3 simple steps. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.